seeing now, so far, from Fulton County, are all of the early voting vote totals. Some 36,000 total. I think we saw 26,000 of them voting for the Atlanta mayor and some 10,000 others voting for other campaigns and other contests throughout the rest of Fulton County. So in the next few minutes, we'll start to see more vote totals from across Fulton County as they come into here at this center where they are counting the votes, uploading the memory cards into the computer so that we can all see how this voting is proceeding, this vote count is proceeding. Richard Barron, the elections director for Fulton County, who is departing as of the end of the year, who decided to resign, said everything today has gone smoothly, it's gone uneventfully, just as he said it's supposed to go. He gave thanks and praise to all of the Fulton County elections workers who were working today to get these elections voting pulled off without any problems at all. But he said he was obviously noticing how light the turnout is. There are 520,000 Fulton County voters registered who could have voted in this runoff election, but as you're seeing the initial numbers, it's a tiny fraction of that. People who actually turned out for these runoff elections in Fulton County and across the rest of the region. What he said about the performance review panel from the State Board of Elections, he said he's cooperating with them, they're cooperating with him. Everything has gone well. He believes, he thinks maybe sometime in December there will be some sort of recommendation as to whether the State Board of Elections will try to take over Fulton County Board of Elections because of past problems and because of possibly ongoing problems, so that the state would be in charge of Fulton County elections in the big election year of 2022. He doesn't know how that's going to go. He believes he's leaving in December, on December 31st, leaving the Fulton County Elections Office in great shape to conduct the elections smoothly over the next year. But he said he's got his fingers crossed for the people who will be here left behind. He said last week he started to pack up as he was getting ready to leave. He said he got kind of choked up, as he put it, thinking of all the people he will be leaving, but he believes he's leaving the office in good shape. One more point, he believes we will have all of the election returns maybe as soon as 11 o'clock tonight. Back to you.
We should know in just about a few hours who will be Atlanta's next mayor, and it all comes down to Felicia Moore and Andre Dickens.
Oh man, I love these nights. Aren't they great? They're
I
so
know.
exciting. They're so much fun.
The anticipation is in the air.
And we got reporters everywhere, all fanned out. Team coverage tonight from candidate parties across Atlanta to Fulton County, where less than an hour ago, election officials gave a very brief update about how voting went throughout the county. Very optimistic update as well.
And that's where we're going to start tonight. Fulton County Supervisor of Elections Richard Barron spoke about the changes during the runoff. Our John Sherrick is at Fulton County's voting warehouse now with much more. John.
Fulton County Elections Director Richard Barron said there were no problems all day long. Everything went smoothly the way it's supposed to go. And he said he expects we may know maybe by 11 o'clock who the winners are and who the losers are relatively early anyway, because turnout was so light, there just aren't that many votes to count. And I asked him about Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, wanting to take over the Fulton County Elections Office because of past problems with the office. You have said that you believe you're leaving the Fulton County Elections Office in good shape for 2022, big election year.
Right.
And yet there's the possibility that the State Board of Elections might take over Fulton County under the new Georgia election law. In fact, the Secretary of State has said he hopes that that happens.
Well, you know, he's running for office next year, and he's going to be in a partisan primary, and he's got opponents to his right, and he needs to campaign against something. So that's where we're at with that. And you know, if he wants to run against Fulton, that's fine.
You can't take the politics out of politics. Of course, Barron earlier this month said he's going to resign effective at the end of the year. He said he is relieved and excited, although he said he's not announcing any plans for what he'll be doing after the end of the year. Back to you.
Now to the much anticipated mayoral runoff race in Atlanta. Out of an initial 16 mayoral candidates, Felicia Moore and Andre Dickens are the last two standing for today's runoff.
It has been a tight race that we have seen throughout much of the month when we have looked at our polling. Both candidates focusing their campaigns on the topics that you're interested in the most, according to our polling: crime and affordable housing.
Hope Ford joining us now live downtown Atlanta outside the venue of Felicia Moore's watch party. Hope, what can you tell us so far?
Well, we managed to make our way inside the watch party right now. It's going on. There are a lot of supporters who are making their way in right now. Of course, people have their heads kind of looking down at that phone every once in a while to check those results as they're waiting, as all of those results are coming in. And even though it does show that Moore is a little bit behind right now, that's not really bothering anybody in this room right now. People are still energized and they're still ready to support Felicia Moore there. It's been a long day for a lot of people in here. It's been a long day for Moore. Her day started at 9 a.m. when she was out there voting, and now it's ending here at this party as we wait for those results, and also wait to see if Moore is going to come down and talk to anybody here in a little time soon. But she has been very secure that she was 41% of the vote last time, and she kept talking today about how she was very sure that her team was successful in being able to get out there and talk to other people who voted for other candidates in the general election and pull them over to her side, and they are still very confident that they'll be able to do that. Of course, she's talked about her bringing honesty and transparency to this campaign and hoping to do that as the mayor of the city, wanting to bring some, again, transform Atlanta politics there. So she's talked a couple of times today about, whoever the next mayor is could possibly be mayor for 4 years, possibly be mayor for 8 years, and that is a lot of time to make some change in the city, which she and her opponent have both said is desperately needed. So right now we're waiting to see if and when Moore is going to come down here and talk to folks as more people are piling in here right now. We're going to check in with Doug Richards. He's with Moore's opponent over there at Andre Dickens' watch party. Doug, how's it going over there?
It's a little loud over here, Hope. I think Andre Dickens' backers got a head start on Felicia Moore's backers in terms of celebration. They found a screen to put up that indicates that Andre Dickens is about 20 points ahead of Felicia Moore. everybody seems to like the screen that they found that indicates that. We caught up with Andre Dickens earlier this evening while the polls were still open, actually, as night was falling. It was at the Ponce de Leon Library where a voting precinct was, and he and supporters were waving signs and horns were honking. And Andre Dickens talked with us about the low turnout and how the campaign had gone.
Knocking on doors, making phone calls, really doing good in debates and forums, meet and greets. I've done all that's necessary for me to be in this position, and hopefully at 8 o'clock when the polls close, we'll get an indication that I'm winning.
Does the lighter turnout make you nervous at all?
No, it doesn't make me nervous. It just disappoints me. I would much rather our citizens get out and use their voice and vote. I was hopeful that we would have 100,000 people vote in November 2nd and now. So I'm more disappointed than concerned.
So the turnout may have been light in the runout. It is not light at Andre Dickens' watch party. Probably a couple hundred people in here, and people are continuing to pour in, hoping that they leave with a result that they desire. Back to you.
All right, Doug Richards and Hope Ford reporting. Thank you so much. All right, so here's a look at where we are standing right now. Again, you heard from Doug that lead from Andre Dickens, about 59.74. So if you round up, about 60-40 right now between Andre Dickens and Felicia Moore. We will continue to watch those results come in, and we had some other results that are here as well, Jeff.
Some of the other numbers, I'm thinking about a Charles Dickens book, A Tale of Two Cities.
Oh, really?
That is what we saw the first half of the month, and now what we see in the second half. It is as the Tale of Two Cities. All right, thank you. I'm sorry. That's the last time I'll use that tonight. Atlanta City Council right now, Doug Shipman, who was heading the Woodruff Foundation and also the Human Rights Center as well, also has his degree from Emory University, taking on Nadalyn Mosby Archibong for City Council President. This is an interesting race, and it is tight right now. We'll see which way this goes tonight, but it is one of the interesting races, certainly of the month, to follow. All right, here we are, election night. Voters went to the polls to decide on big races, including who will be the next mayor of the city of Atlanta. 11 Alive political analyst Dr. Andrea Gillespie from Emory is joining us right now. What do you think voters take into consideration when they decide who is going to be the next Atlanta City Council president? A very important job, very influential. Yet I'm not sure voters know a lot about the two running for this job.
Well, so if you live in the eastern part of the city, you probably have been represented by Natalie Archibong for a long period of time, so you may have greater familiarity with her. If you have circled around nonprofit circles in the city of Atlanta, you are familiar with Doug Shipman, who was the founding director of the National Center for Civil and Human Rights, and was also at the Woodruff Foundation. So these are folks who are known in certain circles. They may not be known citywide. And so it was incumbent upon them to introduce themselves to the entire city of Atlanta over the course of this election cycle.
You know, I look at council presidents over the years. I think about the great Marvin Arrington, the legendary figure in Atlanta, first African American to get a law degree at Emory University. Came up from the projects. Just an incredible life that he led. Caesar Mitchell was a very effective council president as well. And you know, we look at all these individuals who have been council president and certainly Felicia Moore as well, that have had great influence. They have been kind of a thorn in the side of the mayor. And the impact of the city council president is something that should never be shortchanged here in the city.
It should never be shortchanged because for all intents and purposes, it's the vice mayor position. And so if the mayor can't serve their term in office, then they are the person who is the heartbeat away from taking over and taking control of the city. So while they're not voting on city council issues, they are the one who is assigning all the other members of city council to committees. And so they play a really, really important and influential role.
The difference between Shipman and Archibong are we talking about two individuals who pretty much agree philosophically in terms of politics and how the city should be run, but have a different sort of style and certainly a different take on what makes for the public life? So
definitely they have different styles, and I think they have different natural constituencies. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out tonight. I would not be surprised if we see a north-south divide there as well between the two of them. But it's really hard as we're waiting for the votes to come in. The early votes got counted. Those got reported early. And so we're waiting for the machine counts to come in.
We have, well, since you're talking about the machine counts coming in, the commission chairman, voting commission, Barron, has said that he believes that all of the votes will be in by 11 o'clock. Do you believe that?
Well, there aren't many to count, relatively speaking, so it should be a relatively easy job compared to what they had to do last year.
But history, you and I have sat here over the years.
We have.
In Atlanta, Fulton County, and some of the votes from DeKalb as well have come in at a glacier post.
I mean, it feels that way right now, but then in the grand scheme of things, knowing how many votes they had to count last year and how many votes they'll have to count next year, right? Given the fact that the absentee votes have already and the early votes have already been counted, hopefully they're well on their way to being able to report some numbers to us in the next couple of minutes.
So our Survey USA poll had Moore with a slight advantage over Dickens, 5% margin of error. Do you think polling is correct these days, or are we going to see that polling continues to be problematic all around the country?
That poll is a tie. Okay. Statistically speaking, and so I think the candidates need to be prepared for any outcome tonight.
All right, very good. Dr. Gillespie, we will see you within the hour. Hopefully we'll have some more numbers in so we can have a better view of what's transpiring right now. It's still kind of foggy, yep. Still you know, a little bit in the mist, but you know, we'll find out here as the minutes turn into hours. All right.
Andre Dickens still in the lead over Felicia Moore, as you can see, basically 60% to 40%. We're going to get straight to Doug Richards now from Andre Dickens' watch party with the latest. Doug?
They're in the place called the Gathering Space in Gathering Spot in Northwest Atlanta. There are a couple of hundred people here who are expecting to celebrate an Andre Dickens victory tonight. Dickens, of course, was a guy who barely registered in the polls prior to November 2nd. He leapfrogged ahead of former Mayor Kasim Reed and is now in a position, his supporters think, to pull it off tonight. Back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Doug. We'll check in with you later on in the evening. Here's a live look from Felicia Moore's watch party. A lot more quiet tone there at the hotel. We're going to be live in just 50 seconds once again.
11 Alive News is now on Roku.
We're just waiting for all the numbers to come in. You want to listen to it?
City Hall soon. Out of an initial 16 mayoral candidates, Felicia Moore and Andre Dickens are the last two.
It has been a race tonight that we have watched, and we're trying to decipher exactly how many precincts are reporting out of 182. But if you look at the screen, we're seeing 0%. So to give you a sense of perspective about what we are seeing, it becomes somewhat problematic. Here's what we do know is we take a look at the numbers and add up the totals. So we're going to do a little of the math here. We're looking at about 26,000 votes. The expectation has been between 90 and 100,000 people probably will vote. So if you look at toward 30,000 here, the math would indicate that's toward 30% of the vote that's been tallied. We don't know that for sure, but we're smart people around here. We're trying to figure it out.
And we have been sitting around that 60-40 percentage point mark with Andre Dickens leading for much of the night so far. Let's get now to Doug Richards, who is at the watch party for Andre Dickens. Doug, what's the mood like there, especially as he's been leading for much of the evening here?
Well, the mood is very buoyant here. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who was a latter-day supporter of Andre Dickens, spoke very briefly to the crowd, excuse me, miss, and admonished the crowd not to celebrate prematurely, but at the same time she also referred to she used the word when she described the upcoming mayoralty of Andre Dickens. We saw Andre Dickens earlier this evening, right around dusk, when he and a number of supporters were outside of a polling place, the Ponce de Leon Library, and at that time, I chatted with Dickens and asked him about what kind of race he and Felicia Moore had run against each other, and here's what he said.
I mean, Council President Moore and I are respectful of one another, so this became a race about just issues, and that's what I wanted to always be about, because the voters really need us to take care of the things that we have agreed to, which is, this public safety plan that I have, affordable housing, transportation, and good paying jobs. We were able to do that without noise and without other issues. And
So the folks here at Andre Dickens' watch party are hoping that that high-minded campaign that Andre Dickens described will yield the runoff votes that he will need to become mayor-elect by tomorrow morning. And we haven't seen Dickens yet, but we've been given a preview telling where Mayor Bottoms told folks that there's going to be a stage in another room here where we'll be able to see Dickens when he decides to come down. Back to you.
All right, Doug Richards live from the gathering spot, which is on the west side of Midtown. City Council President Felicia Moore now fighting to take on the title of Atlanta Mayor. She has some work to do right now if we believe the numbers of what we see so far tonight in our most recent 11 Alive Survey USA poll. She was in the lead with about a 6 percentage point lead on Councilman Dickens.
Yeah, that plus or minus of 5% there. So that was really showing a very tight race between the two. The challenge was keeping that lead and getting voters to turn out and show up in this runoff. Hope Ford joining us now for Moore's watch party as her team waits on the final results.
That's right, and Moore just came through the room probably about 20 minutes ago. She just left, but she came in here to, of course, everyone in here applauding her and shouting for her. And she came through here and she shook hands or hugged or took pictures with every single person who is in this room right now. And there's probably close to 200 people in and out of this room right now. And she stopped to talk to everybody. She said that she is still optimistic. They're still waiting for those results. She actually kind of talked about how it's odd to her that more results aren't in right now, but she says that she is still optimistic, but she is also a little bit frustrated with the low voter turnout. She says, especially with this runoff. She said when you put a runoff at the end of a short runway and then you have a holiday in there, it makes it a lot harder to get some of those people to come back out and vote once again. So that's really where she's sharing her frustration tonight. And we asked her, okay, so what areas are you waiting on? Are you hoping for those results where you think that you'll get a little bit of a bump up in those results? And here's what she told us.
I mean, I'm looking for the same areas that I had before, which were across the city. Of course, my district I represented for 20 years, and north of that I connected with. And certainly we've been heavy in Southwest Atlanta, but when I was out there today, I didn't see a lot of turnout.
So she is still optimistic. You could probably hear it in here. I'm having to shout a little bit, but there is definitely a party going on here. There is no quiet sitting around or anything like that. So people are still excited. They're still optimistic, and they're still hoping by the end of the night they'll be able to say Mayor Moore. Back to you.
All right, Hope Ford, thank you. Election officials in Fulton County say overall the process largely has been problem-free. John Sherrick joins us now live from Fulton County, where officials are counting the ballots. The hope, the wish is that they are all complete by 11 o'clock. Is that still a reasonable expectation that they had earlier tonight, John?
Possibly. That may be when we'll see the results. But elections workers have been driving the memory cards under sheriff's escort from every single Fulton County precinct to the computers here. Then they take those memory cards out of the envelopes and upload them into the computer precinct by precinct. Fulton County Commission Chair Rob Pitts says the turnout today for this runoff was, as he put it, horrible. And Fulton County Elections Director Richard Barron says he's not concerned about Georgia's Secretary of State wanting the state to take over Fulton County elections because of past problems. That's just politics, Barron says.
I know the Secretary of State's going to be in a tight primary campaign, so he's using us as a way to campaign for next year. Today, we had virtually no issues at the polling places, and early voting ran smoothly as well.
The turnout was just horrible for an election as important as the one. These are all Atlanta precincts that I'm talking about now. As everybody says, if you don't vote, you can't complain. I was a little surprised, quite frankly, at the low turnout in the Atlanta elections in particular.
There are 520,000 registered voters in Fulton County alone for this runoff. So as the vote totals start to come in, you can do the math and see just what a tiny percentage of those registered voters actually showed up at the polls. Back to you.
All right, John Sherrick reporting for us live from Fulton County. Thank you so much. We are, of course, staying on top of the election results for you tonight. For live updates throughout the evening, you can always head over to our website, 11alive.com. You'll find this story on the homepage.
And so his lead is growing at this point. So we're still going to wait to see more numbers come in, but that actually reflects what the polls suggested, which was that people who weren't already committed to Moore and weren't committed to him flocked to him in the runoff election. So he picked up Kasim Reed's votes. He also picked up votes from people who voted for some of the other candidates who ran on the first ballot.
Help us understand how this runoff has looked different. Why did the vast majority of Kasim Reed's support go to Andre Dickens and not Felicia Moore?
Well, there, is a racial component to this. So, it's not just that these voters, flocked to Dickens. It's that African American voters have looked like they are breaking heavily in Dickens's favor.
Is there an issue that has swayed them more than any other?
It's not clear, right? So if we look at the numbers and look at where the relative advantages would be, it's not a statistically significant advantage. Andre Dickens had an advantage on affordable housing to the extent that you could say that, but the numbers were so slight that it's not statistically significant at all.
I found it interesting, though, and I don't think endorsements really mean much, but they did get my attention in the sense that Ambassador Andrew Young came out in front for Andre Dickens, as did Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. And I also noticed on social media, if that's indicative, oftentimes it isn't, sometimes it is, but there was a lot of youthful support. And I don't know, once we see the data, we'll have a clearer understanding if they came out to vote, but there were more young people that seemed to be swinging toward him as well.
Well, for those who did turn out to vote, I think that that's an important caveat to make because this electorate is still probably going to skew older. It wouldn't be surprising for people to be attracted to the younger candidate in the race. I think the endorsements that came from former Mayor Young, from Mayor Bottoms, that went from former Mayor Franklin as well, certainly were a help to Andre Dickens. I also think that in some instances they were following what the trend in the community already was as well.
Yeah, Mayor Franklin had come out from Mary Norwood in the last election cycle, as we recall. So seeing her swing toward Andre Dickens certainly was one that got my attention as well.
Well, I can't say that I was necessarily, surprised by that. Mayor Franklin chooses, candidates, who she believes in. I think the dynamic of this electoral contest was different than the 2017 contest. She, had a huge falling out with Mayor Reed. Thought that Keisha Lance Bottoms was too tied to the Reed administration. That wasn't a factor this time around, at least in terms of Dickens versus Moore. Neither of them has any connections to Reed or to Bottoms, and so I think she made a case or made her decision based on the candidate that she felt a closer affinity to and who she thought would be best prepared to lead the city.
Do you think Atlanta knows a lot about Andre Dickens?
I think that they are learning. He certainly was a dark horse candidate. Having talked to people who worked on his campaign, I think that this was precisely what they had been planning. But this is a person who had served on city council for a number of years, and so while he wasn't particularly well known, he wasn't unknown either.
Dr. Andrea Gillespie, we always appreciate it, and we will be seeing you, of course, in about the next 45 minutes on 11 Alive as well. All right, we are.
And Andre Dickens, and it appears some members of his family, have taken the stage up here. Perhaps we can zoom into the stage. You can see Dickens clapping rather buoyantly. Got a very serious look on his face. Perhaps it's because the weight of what he's winning tonight is actually fallen upon him. He was a guy who came out of nowhere, obviously, on November 2nd to overtake Kasim Reed, and I think we're going to hear from him now. And I'm going to plug into this mult box so you can hear Andre Dickens. Tyson.
We are here right now at the gathering spot, a place that I call home. Spent a lot of my days here. Ryan Wilson is a friend and an ally and a supporter of mine, and TK and this whole staff. I am grateful for y'all for opening this place to me tonight as we gather in victory for Atlanta. This is a uniquely Atlanta experience. This is a uniquely Atlanta story. How does a boy from Adamsville, where they give you a 4% chance of making it to the upper middle class, how does this happen in the city of Atlanta? I was counted out way back then. No one in my family had gone to college. My mom, Sylvia, I thank her for keeping me in school and keeping me disciplined and keeping me focused. Come on up here, Mama. This is her right here. I told her, I said it was when I was 16. She said it was when I was 12 years old that I wanted to be mayor of the city of Atlanta one day. And look at us now. I became the first in my family to go to college when I went to Georgia Tech and got a chemical engineering degree. When I ran for council in 2013, they said you ought to run for something like school board or a district council seat. They said you ought to run for something smaller. Then I told them, you know, I got my sights set on a citywide seat because I got citywide ambitions and citywide relationships, and I want to make sure that we get this dream to come true. And they counted me out even back then. But the people came out to vote. And the believers back then are some of the same believers that are on this stage with me tonight. That dream became a reality. But then those same people, this same year, when I announced that I would be running for mayor, some people even counted me out back then, 6 months ago. They said again, I was dreaming way too big. Yet again, and some of those people tried to get me off track. But then we got together, these folks on my side, we scrapped and we scraped and we fought to get our message out to the entire city of Atlanta. And 4 weeks ago, just 4 weeks ago, we proved them wrong again when we made it into the runoff. This team continued to grow and grow and grow. And then the believers did it again. They believed that this city needed a unifier, somebody that could bring this whole city together. And tonight I am beyond humbled. I'm beyond humbled that you have even chosen me. You've elected me to be the 61st mayor of this great city of Atlanta. I want to thank and commend Council President Felicia Moore on a well-fought campaign. Give her a round of applause. I respect her and her desire to serve this city of Atlanta. She's put in 24 years of service, and I know that she loves this city, and I hope that she's around as we move this city forward. And of course, I got to thank my daughter. Where is my daughter, Bailey? I want to thank my daughter, Bailey, who is my pride and my joy. I love you so much. Thank you for your sacrifice for allowing me to be all over this city every single day. And I want to thank my mother. I want to thank my mother, Sylvia Dickens, for all of her support and all of her encouragement. Harper High showed up for me. Y'all know I went to Mays High, but my mother and my sister, they went to Harper High. And I want to thank my girlfriend, Nikki. You know, it's hard to there. 6 months of, this was 6 months of hard work, and she stood by my side, so I thank you oh so much. And I want to thank my mentor, my mayor, Mayor Shirley Franklin. Mayor Franklin believed in me in a way in 2013 that catapulted me into politics. And I want to thank her, and I want to thank her for her son, my friend, the late Cabral Franklin, who was my campaign manager, my friend, my muse, my inspiration, who is watching us right about now. I thank him for that. And I want to thank all of my staff and this whole team that has been assembled here today that have helped me make this all possible. I love each and every last one of y'all. Thank you. And I want to thank these supporters and these volunteers. They've been putting in the work, knocking on doors, making phone calls, sending texts, talking to the voters. I don't want to ever talk about me putting an S on my chest. I'm putting an us on my chest. I'm not going to be Superman out here alone. I'm doing this with all of us. And lastly, but not least, I want to thank all of the voters of the city of Atlanta. I'm humbled that you have put this faith in me to be the city's next leader. Some were in different camps a few weeks ago. Some people were with this candidate and that candidate, but you all know my motto. I draw circles. I draw circles. I don't draw lines. I'm a hell of an engineer. I can draw squares. I can draw triangles. I can do that little infinity thing. But I chose to draw circles, and I don't draw lines. So I'm glad we are all right here together on this evening. We are facing some generational problems in our city. Atlanta is growing, both in population and in wealth. Businesses are flocking to this city, yet we still have people living on our streets. We have people working at our airport just to pay last month's rent. People are still fighting to stay in their homes in this city that they love. The city is facing multi-generational poverty. We're facing the highest income inequality in the nation, and yes, we are fighting a crime spike right now in this city. I said before that my real opponents in this race was never one of those 13 opponents that we thought they were. My opponent is homelessness, hopelessness, joblessness, racism, poverty, violence. My opponent has been around for 50, 100, 2,000 years. My opponent is bigger than any last one of these individuals that we ran against. My opponent requires all of us, and that's what we're fighting against. But if any city, any city in the world that can face this issue, it's Atlanta. And Atlanta is here tonight. Atlanta is home to the movements that has changed the world. And we need another movement right now. And we have voted for new leadership in this direction. We voted for progress and a problem solver, for a bridge builder, for transformation. And this work will start right now. We can't wait any longer to address these issues. Public safety, it can't wait. Good jobs, it can't wait. Better roads on our street, can't wait. Good transportation, can't wait. Clean energy, can't wait. Affordable housing, can't wait. Small business growth, can't wait. Our children, they can't wait. Progress right now, can't wait. We have to capture this moment, and we will capture this momentum and capture it now and build upon it. The people who have made this victory possible, these people will change Atlanta's future. You're the reason. You're the reason. You're the reason that I'm up here. And you're the reason that we'll transform this city for the next generation. Remember again, I draw circles. I don't draw lines. And the circle tonight got real large. It got a little bit bigger. The gathering spot's parking lot can't even hold this circle. You may not know it, but tonight you signed up. You signed up to change Atlanta's future. Your role is vital. Your job is necessary because we are going to embark upon a whole lot of hard work. Together, we will make these changes. Like they say, Atlanta influences everything. And it's time that we use that influence to make some real change. Atlanta needs to show the world that we are leading. That we are leading on public safety, on criminal justice reform, that we are leading on affordable housing and eliminating the inequality that we have. We will be leaders in technology and in transportation. We need to capture the spirit of Atlanta in this very moment that we have. A future that has one city with one vision, one city with one vision, one future, a future that restores Atlanta to that shining city on a hill. I think it's important again that we've chosen this particular place to experience this victory together. Tonight we are once again outside. We're outside tonight, out here under the stars. We're out here under the stars with a whole lot of stars, right? 4 weeks ago, I chose to put us outside on Auburn Avenue with Congressman John Lewis looking over my shoulder.
All right, Councilman Andre Dickens declared mayor-elect of Atlanta by the Associated Press, the 61st mayor, him giving a very rousing victory speech there tonight, saying that he draws circles around the community and not lines to box people out.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he has an opponent right now. Our election coverage is going to continue with Hope Ford. And she's at Felicia Moore's watch party in downtown Atlanta, where she was at the podium just moments ago, right, Hope?
Yeah, she was. She was up there talking right about the same time that Andre Dickens was talking, so I was hearing both of them at one point in time. But she is now walking through the crowd. I'm not sure if you can get a good, clear shot of her. She's still in here hugging people, shaking hands with a lot of people. There's still a lot of energy in the room. While people are disappointed, they are still excited and happy for the campaign that they ran. So while she was up there, she said first and foremost that she wanted to thank God, her family, and of course the supporters as well. And she says the saddest part really for her tonight is knowing how hard everyone worked to help get her here tonight. She also said there's absolutely no division tonight. She says she did call Dickens and talked to him right before she came out and started speaking. She said she told her supporters they have the same thing in common, and that is a love for the city of Atlanta. And she asked every single person in here and every single person who no doubt voted for her, she's asked them to, all of those people, to work with the new mayor. So we're going to let you take a little bit of a listen to some of the other things that she said up there tonight.
And so for all of you, keep your head up high. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. You know, we all have the same thing that the people in the other room where they are screaming and shouting for victory have, and that's a love for this great city. And since we have that love for this great city, we have got and we have to be called to do the very thing that we wanted everyone else to do, and that's bring this city together.
And of course, people are wondering, what is she going to do next? She spent 24 years on the city council, the last four as the city council president. She spent the last year running for mayor. So what is she going to do? She said she was going to take a well-deserved break. And after that break, she said that she will do whatever the spirit takes her to do. Of course, she spent so much time serving the community and the city of Atlanta that it wouldn't be any type of surprise if she were to come back and continue to do more work in the community. But as she's wrapping up here tonight and still shaking hands with everyone, she said first and foremost that she will always have a love for the city of Atlanta.
All right, Hope, thanks a lot for the live update from Felicia Moore's headquarters right there. By the way, folks, our election coverage will continue in just a few minutes. Our political experts are going to join us live to bring some perspective on tonight's election. And you can also get the latest election results for other metro cities. We're posting all those updates. You're going to get them pretty soon on our website at 11alive.com/elections.
Well, this is 14-year-old Kyra Scott, who her family says was shot and killed in Douglasville over the weekend. Tonight, we are learning more about her and the two suspects who were arrested. A source and the family tell us one of those arrested is Kyra's brother, but there are still many